Hello, everyone, and welcome to the jungle. It's the second episode of season 2. dGon, Monty, and Dom here to break down things happening around the league scene. I just came back from vacation. I went to Cabo, got a nice little tan. I'm sure nothing too crazy happened, you know. I did miss El Asico. We did miss out on the battle between the two greatest teams, one of the greatest rivalries in all of League of Legends that I'm sure everyone was tuning into to watch, right, guys? Right? I didn't.
Yeah. It was fabulous. You also missed G2 versus Misfits, which was a different kind of El Asico in the end.
Yeah.
I ended up hearing about that one as well. Dom, you got to co-stream all of it as much as you wanted to. How was this co-stream back for you and fellow co-streamers? What was that like?
It was really good. It was surprisingly good. I think that the fact that I live viewed all of the weeks, I think I was like the only one that was live viewing the 3 weeks leading up to the Super Week that you could co-stream.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I live viewed it actually helped out a lot. And yeah, my community was actually pretty excited for it. So I think it went overall pretty well. And yeah, I mean, my viewership has remained consistent, if not gone up with the co-streaming changes, which is interesting to say the least.
Yeah, well, that is kind of one of the topics that I wanted to dive into first, because we saw the community post about it over on Reddit and talk about it on Twitter this week, specifically for the LCS. Numbers down. Obviously, LS was not a part of this week, and you know, a lot of the league wanted to keep their eyes glued onto Cloud9 and what they were going to do with the draft. That forced other teams to draft weird. But this week, Super Week, you have more games. You figured there'd be more eyes on it. Not the case. Viewership numbers down, and it seemed like people were making wide sweeping claims like, it's boring now, and I don't want to watch anymore, and dead game. And just a week ago, Monty, it wasn't like that. What do you make of it?
Well, it still was. Like, you know, it's not like we've seen a huge increase in LCS viewership over the years. Basically, I mean, if we're honest, it's kind of been in a downward, fall since like 2016. I mean, you look at TSM versus CLG, those regular season matches used to get like 400,000 concurrent viewers. I remember firing up Twitch. There were times when, I mean, LCS was basically the much more viewed product compared to EU LCS. EU LCS had much lower viewership. And the things that Europe did was to create their own product with LEC, kind of take it away from the LCS name, really focus on development leagues, which brought a lot of kind of new and exciting blood into the LEC. They've done an excellent job with their production. They've done an excellent job of telling the stories of players and their teams. Also helps that they've had a lot of consistency within the teams themselves, like, you know, players on teams for like multi-year runs, like, you know, Caps being a fixture of G2, whereas sometimes in NA, I think the players have shifted around a lot more, so it makes it harder to be a fan of the team. But what I don't get is these narratives that crop up like, oh, I need more NA players, when objectively, Bjergsem was the most popular player in the most popular time in LCS history, and nobody gave a shit that he wasn't from America at the time, right? And there have been plenty of popular players. So to me, that's not really it, right? It's the lack of, I think people are sick of the games being garbage. I think the people are sick of no real international results or hope anymore. Like, we can't roll back the clock and see like CLG in an MSI final anymore, which gave, I think, a temporary boost to NA as a region. I think, you know, the most we could expect is on a very good year is a semifinal run, which is very respectable, by the way, but obviously has happened, once by C9 in League of Legends history. So it's not like there's a lot to cheer about. And I also think that as other leagues, you know, LEC is much more fun to watch from a production standpoint, and it's much more fun to watch from a gameplay standpoint. And then obviously tons of people watch LCK as well, which is much better gameplay, and they've got, you know, a nice production going on over there that they keep upgrading. Now they have an English analyst desk in between games and all these other things. And I think it's hard to justify it's hard for me to justify watching LCS. Literally the only reason I watch LCS is to talk on these shows. It's not because I want to. It's fucking painful. It sucks.
Yeah.
You make me do it, guys. You torture me like this.
Well, they
My
pay
bad.
me to watch LCS these days, so like that's honestly an easier way to go about it. But I mean, I think the problem with all these things that the community always says, I mean, we always hear about the imports thing. It's like, oh, we don't have enough imports, but like imports have been some of the most cheered for players in our region.
Beloved.
Yeah.
Beloved historic
People love
players
core
in our
JJ.
region.
Fuck you guys. That's such
Yeah.
bullshit.
So like, and the teams that are like the all NA teams don't get as much hype. So I actually don't think that people care as much about watching NA players as they claim. Even right now, like I don't think that many people are upset that Summit is an import. Like people are hyped for Summit. He's one of like the bright spots of LCS. People think this guy is a fucking Giga Chad. People think Berserker is a Giga Chad. The way they play is exciting to watch. So to me, I don't really buy that argument. And also like, yeah, I mean, we see imports around the world and it doesn't seem to affect viewership like super negatively. And then the other thing that people talk about is like, oh, it's the lack of international results. But how can that be the main argument when you have regions like CB LoL that are competing, that are now getting more viewership than LCS, regions like LFL, which literally cannot make worlds, it's a regional league, LVP, which cannot make worlds. How is it the competition and the fact that we're not getting international success that is keeping the viewership down, if these other regions that have even less success than us are somehow outperforming and growing right now? So I feel like there's a lot of issues with pretty much any argument you hit. I just think that at a base level, it's just not as interesting as the other regions. And then it just feels like there's a lot of letdowns with LCS year to year. So like LS not being on C9, that's a major letdown. People are definitely less interested. The whole thing that people were looking at coming into this year was the trifecta. You had TSM, the LPL version of an NA team, right? You have C9, the Korean version of an NA team. You've got TL, which is an EU version that's now playing in NA, right? So you had that three that you wanted to see. Oh, like they're gonna compete. Who's gonna be the best? And the fact that TSM is just literally nowhere. They're the actual worst team in all of LCS, and they benched one of their LPL players, the actual only player that had played in LPL. They benched him after 2 weeks. I think that these types of things really like kill the hype. You don't really see TSM versus TL versus C9, and you're not really hyped for that trifecta. And like, oh, EG, the hope of NA. Those storylines don't exist when one of the teams drops off, and then like the C9 team that you expected to be heavily LS influenced, heavily Korean influenced, just loses their major piece that was built around in the offseason.
Yeah. Something I was looking at while you guys were making your point, the last like all North American team was us at Golden Guardians in 2018. Before that, 2017, you had CLG.
Yeah, what about Dignitas?
Dignitas last year was all NA.
They're okay. Other than Dignitas. My bad.
That's all right.
I was looking further in the past as well, because then it was CLG and Flyquest as well in 2017, because that was High's Flyquest. They were all
the point still
NA.
stands. There have been very few all NA rosters.
Yeah,
That's
but
never been
who was hyped for the NA players?
Yeah, who was hyped for that? No one was hyped for that. And we were like, this is our brand. This is what we're gonna do. This should excite people. It did not. No one.
Well, yeah, because like if the NA players suck, then it's not entertaining to watch. No, like when you're watching LCS right now and you're watching Summit just absolutely booty blast every single NA top laner. Every single native NA top laner just gets rolled by Summit. It's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if it's Kumo or Jenkins or Fake God. All of them get obliterated the same way. Like, I mean, it's not entertaining to watch somebody who like, it's not like he's a hope for our region. It's not like, for example, in EU, you have like the French fans behind the French players. Like, it's exciting to root for Vedio because he's actually doing well versus the heroes, right? Like the Caps, the Perkz of the world. Vedio is actually performing versus those guys. When you're watching a player like Jenkins, who's, yeah, sure, he's from NA, do you really care watching it? It's like, oh, he's down 50 CS and Summit is just completely like shitting on his face. But I guess he's American, so let's go. Like, this is exciting. Like, how does that actually help?
I mean, I think it's a combo of the league and the teams, though, both doing a historically terrible job. Like LCS has been first off, let's dial it back a little bit. It's much better this year. I do want to say the production is significantly improved this year. Mm-hmm. They're making a lot more interesting content. Like I really like the hype video they made to start the season. I think the analyst desk is much more engaging. Like I've been enjoying the product significantly more than I have in the past. That said, their storytelling for the past few years has been complete ass. there's still, Someday has now won a championship in North America, and there is still yet to be the actual like highlight video or interview about Someday's extremely long career at this point in time. Like, I bet you in 3 weeks, we're not going to see a feature on Someday versus Arrow now that Arrow's in the league, despite the fact that they were teammates on a team that won champions in Korea, and could be really fucking interesting to sit those guys down and have a conversation about that. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm wrong. They got 3 weeks to do it.
For that one though, I will say at least they were doing. Remember, I'm not sure. Like earlier in the year, they were like, "Look at Darshan against Impact. Here it is back in 2014 when Impact was on TIP." Like, I think this team will, or this broadcast team, hopefully won't miss that kind of that line, because they haven't.
But the thing is that they haven't cultivated narratives in the way that LEC has for years to constantly update and remind people about these players' legacies. So you don't even really know what you're watching, especially if you're a newer fan to the esport. So I mean, it's been, and the thing about LCS too is that what it doesn't feel like is fun. LEC it feels fun. When I watch it, it feels like people are having fun on the broadcast. And when I watch LCS, it doesn't feel fun. And I don't know what that is. It's just a sense that I get, but it's really kind of stale in terms of the aura that it has around it. And even though things have improved, the energy is just boring. And it didn't used to be this way. The reason why LCS was popular was because it was fun. It was fun to have Reggie versus Hotshot, TSM versus CLG. That shit was awesome back in the day. It was fun to have like I'm a cutie pie trolling. It like the personalities really were why people were drawn to LCS, because newsflash guys, it was always the worst major region. Like, you say you care about competitive results. Why didn't you in 2015? 2016, 2014, why didn't you care? When you guys were getting just absolutely devastated internationally every time, nothing's changed. You were still cheering for non-NA players. So really what's changed is that it's not fun anymore. That's what's changed, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, also, if you look at the players that have played recently, and you look at the players that played before, almost all of the players that played before, I mean, not almost all, but a significant amount of the players that played before ended up being able to do something with their brands. Like, they're some of the co-streamers now. Like, why do you think people like Doublelift and Sneaky and Meteos? Like, they're still entertaining even now. And like, if you look in recent years, which players have made good transitions from LCS specifically, not LEC, from LCS specifically, which players have made transitions into having big brands that competed in this region? It feels like no one really cares about having the brand, number one, but number two, like the players themselves are not doing anything to try to be entertaining, to try to like draw eyes. I mean, I think Spica is one of the entertaining players, but there needs to be more of them. And then I think the other part of it is, like, I don't understand why Riot is so against the co-streamers when they could literally use us. Like, all of us, people have this idea that the co-streamers are against Riot. It's like, no, they are against us. I have gone to Riot and been like, I will make content and segments for you guys on broadcast. And I've been on their broadcast before. I've been on LPL. Like, I know how to clean it up and make it like still entertaining, but like, clean up the language and stuff to make it presentable to an audience. But they just like won't take, like, and I'm not even asking for fucking money or anything. I'm not like, pay me and I'll like try to like help the broadcast. Like, I'm literally like, just get me, Doublelift, and LS on the stream together and have us like bantering back and forth and like joking around, talking about the games, betting on the games, like with like whatever. It doesn't have to be like actual betting, but we could just be like competing on the games, competing prediction wise, something like that. How about a segment beforehand where we literally just do our predictions for the week, and then we see who has the most right at the end? I think people would even like that type of stuff. Where's the pop quiz? Why not just like literally copy paste some of the stuff that LEC does really well, that's successful content? We used to have Mic Check, and like for some reason Mic Check disappeared for 4 years. Where's pop quiz? Where's LCS pop quiz? Like, you're telling me that wouldn't be entertaining? Like, I don't know.
Also, I don't even see this or that, which is arguably their most entertaining piece of content. I don't even see it on the broadcast. Maybe I'm just missing it, but it's not there, as far as I can tell, like integrated into live content. It's
I'm just saying
confusing.
that there's definitely options. It just feels like there's like LCS is so afraid to lose more viewership or like lose control of their narratives or like all these they're so afraid of all these different things happening that they just are like, you know what, we're just gonna keep on doing what we're doing and just hope that it improves over time. And really,
Well,
the
Dom,
only way that
what I love about this is when LCS was the most popular was when they had the least control over their narratives, which is when, you know, game cribs and like the reality shows from the teams were at their peak in terms of viewership, and they weren't making the shoulder content. People were paying attention to the shoulder content from the teams, right? And it was only after they started to really control the narratives with a heavy hand that viewership began declining.
Yeah, and
That's
a
just
lot
true.
of that was it
I don't
was
know
a
if they're
lot of
correlated, but that statement is true.
it was a lot of building the brands of the teams at that time, and I remember that's what the goal was. I think the idea at the time was the players will always shuffle, and if you spend time building up somebody, and then they get kicked from a team because you know, an attitude or wanted to build up the brands of these teams, and now what are they left with, you know? And they're focusing on it. It just feels like they're
But I
not
mean, the teams are also to blame,
innovating
though,
on it.
right? Like the problem is a huge problem is the teams, because the teams themselves, C9 becomes the Perkz team, and then all of a sudden isn't the Perkz team anymore. C9 becomes the LS team, and then isn't the LS team anymore. You know, they haven't committed. Like players won't even commit to these teams for the long haul. Like they just assume and discard identities so quickly. Flyquest goes to Worlds. Flyquest gets rid of their Worlds roster. So it's like, well, I like them because they were starting to be good. And then now what? What am I looking at? Golden Guardians has no money. So I guess like they can't have their players that became, you know, turned into 100 Thieves. But very few teams feel like they have a permanent identity that I can even, you know, see. For Team Liquid is probably the only one. And even then, like, it gets a little blurry because Bjergsem's on the team now, right? But I feel like it was a little bit more set in stone previously. But a lot of these teams, like, they haven't put forth the effort to really grow, you know, put down roots or grow their own fan bases, especially the more, I would say, peripheral teams within the league that are not, you know, Cloud9, TSM, and Liquid overall. 100 Thieves may be starting that now a little bit, but most of the teams don't have a strong identity, don't have a strong way of getting fans, and don't have a way to make people give a fuck about them.
Well, let's do a quick drill on that, and I'll invite you on this one, Dom. Like, what are, if we just go through the teams real quick, what is it? What is their brand? What is 100 Thieves for you, Dom? Like, what's 100 Thieves? You're muted.
Oh, he's muted. He's muted.
Oh wait, I am muted. Wait, how did I get muted? Oh, I pressed equal sign, which is my mute button in Discord. But
Yeah.
yeah,
What's
I
100
don't
Thieves?
really know. I don't really know what their brand is. I mean, they're like kind of like, I guess, like kind of like a bro culture type thing. No, you know, not a Riot bro culture. That's a different type of bro culture that gets you sued. But this is they're I guess they're kind of like the bro culture team. Like when I just think about them like celebrating when they won, like they're trying to be like the fashionable team, I guess, something like that.
What is Immortals?
The car insurance team, Progressive Car
No,
Insurance.
that's
Immortals
right.
Progressive.
I would say Immortals Progressive. Monty,
Here's
what is?
something, Dom.
I would say Evil Geniuses
Did you
has
even
one.
know that they moved their headquarters to like Michigan and are trying to get like fans from the Great Lakes Midwest? That's their new thing. Did you even know they were doing that?
No, what?
Exactly.
No, I haven't heard anything about this.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
I will say that Immortals tried to make a big push on it through their socials, but the players didn't push it, which is probably the best way to go about getting news and important reactions. Go through the players, but they're moving
I
their
will say
headquarters to
what I
Michigan,
liked
Ann Arbor.
what I liked about it, what Immortals was doing last year when they had Gyoto, is that because I'm familiar with their Counter-Strike team and their Overwatch League team, right? I thought of them as a team that was putting pretty significant emphasis on empowering coaches, trying to have like a centralized coaching ideology that was really getting the most out of kind of young and up and coming players. And they had a coach in Valorant and Overwatch named Packing, who was also extremely good. And so I thought of them as kind of that team that was like, we're going to be going for all in on our coach's philosophies. And they just let Gyoto go to Liquid, and then Packing 10 works for Blizzard now. Like, what the fuck is this? Like they just abandon their identity as soon as they have one. It's insane.
Yeah, I would say the team that probably has an identity more than what we gave credit to is Evil Geniuses in terms of their development of talent. Now they have the whole structure there, and you're following Peter Dunn. So I think EG kind of got there, but everyone else, and then Flyquest is the charitable organization when it comes to an organization, but their team itself had to retool
They
after.
were quite charitable to the other teams in the league this last week, so that was nice of them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it has to be more than that though. Like that's not what sells, right? Being like the charitable team is not a piece of branding that everyone's gonna get behind. Like people always do this thing where they're like, oh, I love this positivity. The masses just don't like positivity, straight up. Like if the masses like positivity, then Broxah would have like 50K viewers and like Tyler One would be a fucking 2K Andy. Like that's just not how it is, like realistically. So you have to have that can be a component of it, like of what you do, but it can't be everything. It can't be just we are nice, like or it has to be like next level, like we are like donating like $500,000 to like this charity this week. Like it has to be like some crazy shit where people just get behind like the enormous proposition that you're having.
Yeah. So kind of that all stemmed from us tackling the viewership, the numbers, why in terms of viewership is a little bit down right now. When we take a look at, I just took a look at the month of February comparatively to the last, I think 4 years. I went back and looked at the LoL Esports channel as well for 2017. It was around 20,000 viewer average higher. It's at around 160,000 on Twitch at least, so I didn't count YouTube there. And then the last several years, it's been around 140 to 130. So this year, there is more viewership on it, which is good, but we'll see how it rides out in March because of obviously some of the changes that they had and the effects that the co-streaming will have on those specific days that happened in March during the Super Weeks. I guess the most recent one didn't show up, so I'll take a look at that one later. All right, let's take a look at said Super Week, and we'll start there at Flyquest. I don't mind being wrong. You know, I think a lot of people say that I don't take accountability.
We called them a fraud last week. They have proven their fraudulence.
I just wanted to celebrate Flyquest's excellence because I am a person that wanted positivity in the league. They were sitting undefeated, and in this Super Week, they go 0-3 and now find themselves just kind of in the middle of the pack with everyone else as they had tougher games on the back end. And they didn't look great in those games, one would say, Dom.
Yeah, I mean, they got their heads caved in pretty much every game. Like, it was beyond rough. Like, I'm not sure what to say about it, but like, if you just want to look at pretty much their entire weekend, just look at the last game of Summit Jace versus Kumo Graves. You know,
dude, I mean, love that shit.
I love it too. I love it too. But as an American, did you get behind Kumo for this? Like, were you inspired by seeing like more Americans play, or how'd you feel?
Yeah, I really love Kumo as a player. I think he's definitely LCS caliber. He's the kind of professional player that I enjoy watching the most, which is the ones that get stomped by Koreans.
Nice. Sounds good. Yeah.
When you were saying earlier, when we were talking about the viewership, Monty, and you kept saying, you guys and we, I was like, damn, like there's no better authority to say you guys and we when it comes to LCS and LCK. And it feel weird than you, dude. Like, and I was like, fuck.
Well, yeah, I think it's just one of those things where LCK, even English viewership is huge these days because of, it's been, you have to remember that LCK, back when it was called Champions, the real soul of it, right? Back when OGN ran it, you have to remember that those English broadcasts were happening for over a year before LCS even existed, right? Like, this is a league that has had a longer history in English than any of the Western leagues. So, it makes sense that over time, these numbers have gone up, particularly given the skill in that region. Now, LPL, people could argue, has been in the last probably 4 years the better region overall. Has been close, obviously,
Can't
at
argue
times.
it. It's just a fact. But yeah, there's no arguing
Jeez.
unless you want to be into a chat.
That's true. But it's not like it's been runaway the best region, right? Like it has been competitive with at least the top Korean teams. But the English language broadcast has been kind of non-existent or scuffed over the years, and also I think the volume of teams and volume of games can be off-putting to certain people because there's a lot of fucking games and there's a lot of fucking teams, and it's not the same brands that people have learned to follow. Like, even people still love T1 even through their ups and downs because of Faker and the legend that was built around him, where I think it's a lot harder for people to get invested in the narratives coming out of LPL overall.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I think that there's that, and then there's also just the fact that there's such a huge part of viewership for China that's just on Chinese sites, on Huya specifically, I believe. So it's one of those things where for a while they didn't even push the viewership because it's so minuscule in comparison to what they already have, that like they don't really need the international audience at all. So yeah, I think that there's definitely some comparison there. I just think that in general, like, LCS does have the ability to make these narratives. It just isn't. I mean, I think the biggest problem is they're not getting the players with personality in front of cameras for long enough. Like, most of the content is coming from either Summoning Insight or the Best Damn League show. Crackdown in previous years, like, we were Face Check. Like, this is where most of the viewership is actually coming from, and these are like the hubs for it. And when you look at LCS right now, it's not that the players don't want to be in front of the camera. Like, a lot of players will hit me up and be like, yo, like, are you co-streaming? Yeah, I'm down to fucking hop on. Like, people like Yodo love talking about League. You just have to give them a channel to. You got to give them a platform so that they can do that and show you how much they know. So that's what I'm hoping for, going forward, so that some of these games get more exciting. And people want to, like, talk shit too. That's the thing. It's like Revenge, he's literally like trying to make it exciting. It's just there's no platform for him. Yeah, of course.
I love that guy.
I love that guy too.
He's pretty
fearless. Back to Flyquest. Okay, so they proved to be frauds. So now we don't have to talk about them anymore, right? Like, what's the next game, dGon?
The next one is Evil Geniuses. I believe that's the team where you said if they don't go 3-0, we would have, I think they would have some issues there. They go 2-1. So they go 2-1. They beat Flyquest and beat Golden Guardians in that weird day on Saturday where they had 2 games, not necessarily back-to-back like Flyquest, but then they dropped that fiesta against CLG, who was riding high after winning El Asico earlier. That game, and I wanted to dive into that game, the CLG EG game, just because it felt like EG were fighting fights they didn't need to fight, and they should know better. They're a well-coached team, but they played like they weren't. They wanted to opt into those kind of things.
I would argue that a symptom of this game was the same symptom from G2 versus Misfits, which is simply do not give people Zeri Yumi and drag it out into the late game. Like, CLG's comp is built for very late game scenarios in the same way that we saw the catch potential of having the Yumi with the Zeri and the Akali for Misfits was. And it's like, if you throw those games in the late game, the comeback potential is very real from these types of comps. And so if you get cavalier about how you're facing them, you can have these games turn into very dangerous situations for you. Now, you do have to throw a lot. So it's, certainly, like, obviously G2 should have won in that same situation. They had many chances to close it out. They played the early game well, but I think a lot of these tools should simply not even exist in the draft.
Yeah, and especially for this game specifically, when you're playing CLG, I feel like there's only one player that's kind of scary on their team, which is Luger. So, like, I feel like if your strategy is to give him the OP champion and be like, oh, like, we can contain it, I just feel like there's no reason to. If I was playing against CLG, I would ban Jinx, I would ban Zeri, and I would just play one of the other matchups.
So here's the thing, Dom. What's even more baffling about this game is that there were 5 AD carry bans in this game, of which none of them were Zeri. What the fuck's happening there?
Let's see. I mean, let's see when they were banned. But I think that was mainly what weren't those mainly against EG at like the end of the draft to try to force them onto Kaisa? I'll look at it real quick.
Yes, they were. They tried to pinch the pool because they didn't want Dan. They were trying to force Danny onto one of the kind of fringe AD carries, and Danny fell back on a traditional comfort pick of his, which was Kaisa.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this game was surprising for a couple of reasons. I expected a Samira to be picked here. Yeah, I think that this game is literally over if Danny just elects Samira instead of the Kaisa here. Like Samira is also, we saw it in LCK, we saw it in LPL. It's really good pairing with Nautilus specifically, a lot of synergy there, but then also like this is just what you want to be playing Samira into, like this type of lane. You just want to punish the bot lane, dive them over and over again. So I think that was just the weird thing, especially considering that Danny's a Samira player. I guess they got thrown off by the fact that like it's Camille, Galio, and Samira can be tough in those types of situations. But I feel like like you can get so far ahead in bot lane that you don't have to play into that condition. Also, the fact that Impact was just completely ahead top and was just stomping Jenkins does makes it so they can't actually get the Galio Camille fight off. Like if you saw how this game played out, it was very rare that they were actually getting the Galio Camille combo onto anyone. It was mainly just like the Zeri would kite things out and just carry the whole game by herself. It didn't really have anything to do with the top side being active. So I thought this was just a game where I think the draft was a little weird, and then also I think Danny's had one of his worst games. I mean, he went the wits end really early, and then I think he went LDR third, which is normally a little bit weird for Kaisa because Kaisa does a ton of magic damage, so you don't get the same value out of LDR as you would from other champions. So yeah, I mean, I just think in general, like when I look at this game, there's all these draft issues, and then the main thing that I would talk about outside of this would be just discipline. You have to be disciplined when you're playing against team comps that have the ability to count you out like this, because Zeri, if you don't like focus on either getting a fight that's over quickly or disengaging, Zeri gets stacks and then kills your whole team. So I feel like this was the biggest issue in this game. They just weren't able to accurately find the timings to engage and then disengage immediately when it's done. It always felt like one person was going in a little too deep, and if Zeri just gets that one extra stack, well, then it just extends the ultimate, and she's just going to be moving at like 1k movement speed.
I mean, I also feel like this was somewhat of a trap game for EG, because remember their last game got bumped from day 1 to day 2. So they basically were preparing for 2 different teams on day 2. Now, obviously they thought they were going to have one on day 1, but because they were towards the end of the day on day 2 with both of their games, it makes it difficult to turn around into a game the next day against what you would assume this week would be your easiest opponent, right? If you're playing Flyquest, Golden Guardians, and CLG, you're probably putting the least prep out of those teams into your draft or into your composition or your game plan versus CLG. I mean, it's hard enough as a team to prep during super weeks anyway, and we often see these very weird trap game results during super weeks because of this reason.
I love that. Just catch there. I totally forgot about that in terms of game day prep, especially against a weaker squad. So EG, we're still okay with EG. They're still good.
I think EG looked
was on 3-0.
EG looked much better this week overall. Like that's why I'm not particularly concerned. Like they had a weird schedule. This was clearly like, I think this is clearly a trap game scenario. I don't think they would make these same mistakes in the draft again, like letting them first pick Zeri. I don't know if they thought, I mean, who knows what their prep was like, right? Like maybe they thought that it would be like a Hecarim first pick, maybe would be a potential scenario that they would have played out. Didn't actually end up getting picked in this draft at all. So they could have just been assuming something else. But I think that Dom's right. If Luger's there, you're gonna first pick Zeri if it's on the table. Especially since what's the current ban rate for Zeri? Highest in the league, 41 bans, 4 picks, 100% pick ban. So seems pretty obvious that's going to be taken.
Yeah, a little disrespectful, maybe even to be like, yeah, you can't play it. They almost didn't pull it off, so maybe they were right. I think the team that got the most, I would say, out of this Super Week, other than Cloud9, we'll get to Cloud9, is Golden Guardians. They go 2-1, and they beat Team Liquid on Friday with the faker, was it Faker Olive? What was going around? A Blaze Faker on Rise, where he got the legit 1v3 and gets the kill, and Golden Guardians able to roll through this Team Liquid squad in a scrappy game. They dropped their game against Evil Geniuses in day 2, but then they bounced back and beat Immortals here in day 3. And we're not trying to hype up this lack of North American talent, but a Blaze Olive does look like he is becoming the best North American mid talent and starting to be able to carry. And
we're saying this in the same week where he got completely fisted by JoJo.
Yeah.
Was
all right,
unable to lane.
I was like, where are you going with this dGon? Because like, yeah, we can
right.
pump up the TL game, but he also did get shit on by a JoJo, like not even a little bit. Like, and he was on the rise both games, different matchups, obviously, but he was making some very questionable decisions and like taking deaths he shouldn't have taken. So still got a long ways to go, I would say. But Dom, I want to ask you, because last week you were like, I want to see JoJo on more lane dominant champs. Here he comes on the Syndra. Was this at least, did you feel better about EG's game plan this week? Because you were critical about it last week.
I mean, look. I mean, just look at it. Just literally look at his
Just
Corki.
look at it. It's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful.
What else is there to say? Like, you see him play Syndra versus another NA mid laner, and this is what he's capable of. So yeah, why not have that be your strategy? I mean, also I think his Rise game versus Palafox, he clearly wasn't the issue in that game either. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like the fact that Corki is nerfed is probably just good for them as well, because now they don't feel like they have to pick Corki. I feel like the way that you unleash JoJo is you just get him in matchups where the people actually have to play the lane. So if I was on EG, I would ban champions like Veigar, for example, that just want to AFK, like bitch out the entire lane, AFK, stack their Q, like you start running in for a fight, they just cage you and back off. Like, just if you get those types of champions out of there, and you force somebody to lane like a Syndra Ori matchup versus JoJo, I swear he's gonna shut on like all the mid laners besides for probably Bjergsem. Yeah, and that's it. Probably Bjergsem is the only one that's gonna be able to like actually deal with him, unless IWDominate gets his shit together or something.
He's got Power of Evil and Fudge next week for week 5 here, Immortals and Cloud9.
Yeah, I feel like we should create a Corki ban list for certain players, because I also need to ban IWDominate from playing Corki. I need that to end. So you can ban JoJo from playing Corki. I'll ban IWDominate from playing Corki, and hopefully we'll end up somewhere good with both those players.
I mean, I think we need to ban IWDominate from playing Lost Ark or whatever the fuck he's doing, because like I swear to God, like this guy doesn't look at all like the same player. Like, you got to remember, like at this time last year, it was like, is IWDominate the best mid laner in LCS right now? Or is it Jizuke? Like, that was the conversation. Those are the two guys that people were throwing back and forth. Like, every now and then people would be like, oh, wait for playoff Perkz or something like that. But these were the two guys that looked by far the best. And IWDominate looks really out of sorts. Like, that death he had versus Blues Victor.
Yeah.
That was really tough to watch. That was like, what the fuck, bro? You literally just walked up to a guy with like 100 HP and he just one-shot you. Like, we've seen people get solo killed in this matchup before around the world, but it looked too easy for Blue to solo kill him there, and it's really questionable.
There's a lot of times where Freak like goes off too hard, and that was one of the times where I was like, damn, Freak got this right, and the expectation of this player is not to have that happen. And it was just cool to see Freak's mind explode.
In the same game is where he said Biofrost with the flash or the knock up without vision, the blind W. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw the clip of my reaction to that, but
I'll go watch that.
I did not. Well, what was the clip of your reaction to that? When they watched everybody walk into the bush?
Yeah, where they watched everyone walk into the bush, and then a TP came down on that ward, and then this was being hyped as like Biofrost is the genius of the world. To me, the thing that I think is the most criminal is you can tell that these people are not playing the game frequently, because even if you don't know the situation. You didn't see the ward, whatever. If you see a team react with that much purpose so instantly, you should know that there's some like intent behind the move. Like just from watching like how players move. Players are not superhumans. They're not just like, oh, I'm gonna blind W here, and the teleport's already fucking coming in the second that you're blind Wing like the bush. Like that's just, it doesn't happen that fast. Like there's no way that this shit is not prepped for. So that was pretty concerning because the ward not only was so the observer toggled vision just so the casters knew that they were seen going into that bush. They literally toggled the vision, so it's like, oh look, they saw him go in. So that was missed. Both casters ended up missing it. And there was a TP on that ward in the fight. So it like highlights the ward in the middle of the fucking fight. Like, look at this one. Look, it's shining to the fucking heavens because like somebody's teleporting onto it. It was kind of concerning that like we weren't able to catch that real time. But you know, it is what it is.
I will say as a caster, you are inevitably going to make mistakes in thousands of hours of live commentary. So
sure,
sometimes happens. Sure. But
all I'm saying is that, like, if I'm getting a 7,000 upvote Reddit thread where I like confuse a matchup, like that's all I'm saying. Like we're holding people to different standards. Like they're the ones that are professionals.
Of course they are, Dom. Of course they are.
Well, I mean,
don't worry about it. You make more money, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, my biggest concern is this, right? I don't really care about the mistake. I just don't like when reviewing it, like when the replay happens, to try to like cover the mistake by using just like creative words that don't actually summarize what happened. Like I think during it they were like, oh, like they could surmise that they were in this bush. It's like, what do you mean surmise? Like they saw them in the bush. Like that's not surmise. Like that's not like I just that to me is really triggering because it's like, yeah, just like, okay, just say like, yeah, they saw them. That's really what it was. Like I don't know.
They saw them. I didn't. Yeah, that's tough to do on a broadcast. That's tough to do.
Ooh, I think I could surmise that Monty is not a big fan of Riot based on the fact that he says he doesn't like Riot. It's like, what the fuck? Like that's not how the language works. Like
you wouldn't be wrong.
You're a genius detective, Dom. What can I say?
Yeah, I figured it all out.
Give him a magnifying glass, slap on one of those bench cokes. This actually just came down. This news just came out. Not that it's overly important, but I find it's important. It came from Greeley.
CLG IMT or?
Yeah, the IMT CLG competitive ruling. I didn't even know they were researching this. That with the long pause, the week 4 LCS match between CLG and Immortals Progressive, the LCS will uphold the original result as a game of record. So the LCS regrets these technical issues occurred and apologizes to CLG and Luger for their experience.
Yeah, I saw when they were talking about when he was experiencing the ping issues. It seems like they made the right call there. From what, if I'm to believe what they say, which I will for the purpose of this conversation. But it seems like most of the ping issues were not in game crucial moments. So sucks, but I mean, why replay the match or whatever?
What was the competitive ruling though? Like what?
The competitive ruling was the result stands, and that they investigated the ping, and that it happened during. They list the times in the match when the latency got bad, and they were not times in which it was important to the result of the match. Like it was when Luger was in Fountain, shit like that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, for me, I think that the issue there is like when you have ping issues, you start playing differently if you don't know when they're occurring. I think that's the biggest issue is like you don't play the same. Like if I know I'm going to lag, I'm not going to take certain fights or I'm not going to do certain things in the game because I'm afraid of that occurring at a really bad time. I think we've all played through like times where like our ping is spiking and it's like, oh shit, I got 200 ping all of a sudden. I'm no longer like going to go for risky fights. I'm just going to hope that it settles. And then when it settles, maybe I'll do something then. So I feel like that's kind of like a really tough situation to go about because sure, you can say that he wasn't ping spiking in crucial fights, but you don't know what the effect of the fact that he was ping spiking had on his mentality and his willingness to like play the game like a certain way. I mean, obviously it's easier to say, oh, you can just play normally, and if something really bad happens, we'll chrono break it. But we've seen how chrono breaks have worked before. It's not a exact thing where you're guaranteed to have chrono breaks at perfect timings, and you're not guaranteed that it'll be even upheld.
Yeah, you're hitting what a lot of the top, at least Twitter comments I see on here are saying. Do you understand what that does to your psyche? What's the other one?
Wait, where
if the lag continues?
I think we should also ask the question of how does this lag occur when the players are. What's concerning to me is that Riot isn't even saying the cause of the latency, which is
Right.
really weird, by the way, because the players are they're not remote anymore. The players are in the studio, and the servers are in the studio.
Yeah.
So
they're like,
Are the servers
how do
actually
you
in the
have-
studio?
yes, they're like 400 yards away from where you stand. on
Okay,
stage.
interesting.
For-
Because
for
when I
any-
used
for
to play, I don't think they were in the studio because I used to have 8 ping, which like 8 ping is like when you're in the same city, but normally 8 ping is not like you're on top of it. It's not
so
0 ping.
typically because I think they did that when they moved the servers to Chicago, Dom. I think that they put the LAN servers into the studio because every time there was an international event, when I would go and work those events, they would always have servers on site, and they would be guarded by security 24/7. So they were locked. They would construct locked rooms backstage with the servers in them.
Interesting.
So
But yeah, just brought that up because everyone's favorite North American top laner, Bobby Jenkins, has the Pepe Frog doing a dance with a hat. I don't know. You can check it out yourself when you get to this point in the video. Jenkins, man, you're not building a fucking brand for yourself, brother.
it's not his fault. It's not his fault that Team Liquid fucked his brand by just having him be like the Alfari replacement and the
not Alfari.
maelstrom of a giant epic drama last year.
Yeah,
It's really
Jazz
concerning
fault.
that I typed in Jenkins and I couldn't instantly find his Twitter. I typed in Jenkins LOL. I still can't find this guy's Twitter.
No way. Oh no. Is
Jenkins LOL. Like, what is his Twitter?
Bob Jenkins lol.
Bob Jenkins. That's actually really sad that like Jenkins. I tried Jenkins LOL. I tried CLG Jenkins. I couldn't find his Twitter. That's actually really
right.
crazy.
I'll talk to him. I'm one of the fans of Jenkins. Mainly because we work together at Golden Guardians, but still, I gotta come on. All right. Let's just quickly touch on Cloud9, I guess. Cloud9 3-0 took care of business against Dignitas, 100 Thieves, and a slumping Flyquest. There was an article that came out recently with Fudge praising Max Waldo's ability to ask questions and get people to think about why they do things here.
Mhm. Yeah.
Everything fine at Cloud9 now? 4
Well, I
wins
would
in a
just-
row?
Now, I'd say you have to read into this. What this means is that LS was a dictator. He never asked anyone any questions. He just told them what the fuck they were supposed to be doing in the game, and that was what was ruining the team, and that's the reason why they couldn't go on with him any further. So I'd
What
say
I
that's
love
probably
is-
the most reasonable thing.
What I love is that Professor Waldo, Fudge is discovering the Socratic method of teaching. He should be in college right now, so maybe this is his League of Legends seminar, like small group seminar, where Professor Max Waldo is asking him questions in order to lead him to his own conclusions. Congrats to Max Waldo for inventing this and not people thousands of years ago. And
Well, I
congrats to Fudge for suddenly discovering that exists. Anyway,
I think he's talking about the manner in which he does it rather than the fact that he just asks the question. Like,
well, that's the whole point of the Socratic method, Dom.
yeah, but I mean, but, like, I feel like he's praising the way in which he does it, not the fact that because I had coaches that just ask you simple questions. I mean, I think that
No,
maybe
but
that's the way he
how
dances
a
around
good
it.
teacher uses
That
the
is-
Socratic method.
Sure,
But
but
yes,
like
I do
most
find
are
I saw that and I was just kind of like chuckling to myself. But yes, I'm glad that C9's coaching staff allows people to intelligently ask questions to arrive at their own conclusions. I thought it was a weird title for an article, frankly.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have an education. Okay.
I mean, it's not about asking questions. It's about, I feel like it's about asking the right questions that like actually is going to get someone. I think, or at least the way that I took it was that he was asking the right questions that would get someone to actually be able to fully explain their reasoning. Whereas like a lot of times people are like you
Why'd
ask
you
the
do
question
that?
about, yeah, and then they'll just like they'll not give you what you want. So I mean, I took it more as like he's able to actually extract from the players reasoning as to why they're doing certain things so that they can actually target the problems or like the issues in their thought processes that are leading them to fuck up a lane or whatever.
Yeah, and jokes aside, you do actually have to have knowledge of a subject in order to do that effectively. That's why professors who are highly knowledgeable do that, right? So they can kind of guide you through questioning to arrive at these conclusions and to diagnose your own thoughts. So yes, I agree with that. I just thought it was a kind of hilarious like one-liner from an article when I read it. I read the interview, but and also like it just seems it seems to raise more questions because by saying that now Fudge may not have meant to imply this, but the implication was that Ellis was not doing that, right? Like that's what I read into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was the whole joke. That was the whole joke about like people. I mean, until people actually know the reasons why LS was removed from Cloud9, it's every single interview is just going to be like,
what is he not saying?
Yeah, it's like, well, they asked him a question about LS and he breathed 3 times. Like I think that means that he was actually like formulating a lie. If he had something to say immediately, it would have just came out instantly. Like, I mean, it's just gonna be shit like this every single time. Like, this is the world we live in now.
The thumbnail for this better be fucking Detective Dom. You know, like, get the magnifying glass out. Any other thoughts on Cloud9 before we move on? I just saw that article and I thought it was funny. They have, Summit, Berserker are playing well. Fudge is still scaling. Blabber's good blabber. And, Winsome. What do we think of Winsome? How is Winsome as a support here for the squad?
He plays support. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's definitely the least convincing player on the team. He's the player that like could be an issue for sure.
Honestly, I haven't paid a huge amount of attention to Winsome just because the other 4 players are so much more interesting to think about and watch. He's not throwing games, which I mean, it's hard to say because they've been winning like pretty convincingly this past week, and like so much of the focus has gone over to like Summit and Berserker. And Summit, because he's getting like counterpick matchups with very champions that he's extremely good on. He's just absolutely dumpstering people. So it kind of doesn't matter what Winsome is doing when Summit is just bodying people that hard, right? Mm-hmm. Like that Jace game was extraordinary, and like honestly, who cares what Winsome does? Because all eyes are on Jace like getting quadra kills.
I do, because for me, like when I'm looking at. So like, but I'm being serious when I say this. Like that game made me a little bit uncomfortable because watching it, the way that it should function when you have this massively ahead Jace on your team, you should be waiting for Jace to like soften them up and be picking your engages, just very prudently. And when you watch Winsome play, with how fast he was throwing out his ult, the way that he was playing fights, it made me feel like he was just playing Leona like he would play Leona in any other game, where it's like, I'm the hard engage, like I see them on my screen, I can hit an ult, I just throw it, and we start the fight like that, which actually can lose you games if you do it poorly. So for example, another game that was played with the Jace was the 100 Thieves game, I believe versus Dignitas. It was like the last game of LCS is the one where Abidaga got solo killed by Blue. And that was the game where they have Corki Jace, and Huhi did the same thing. And it's like he kept on just hooking in and dying and starting a fight before Corki and Jace were able to poke at all. So they got 0 fucking value out of the Corki and Jace. And suddenly they're just losing every fight because instead of having a fight where the other team is at like 70% life, like total team life before they start the fight, they're at like 100%. And it's just fighting versus fighting. It's like, okay, well then why are we picking Jace? Why are we picking Corki? So when I watch
that game like was just a fucking tragedy in general, but
yeah, sure. But I feel like this is like one of the things that I'm looking for from supports. It's like, do you adapt to what your teammates pick when you're playing the same champion? Because Nautilus, sure, is still Nautilus, but you don't play Nautilus the same when you're playing with like a bunch of if you're playing like a Nautilus, Samira, like Hecarim comp into like a Zeri Yumi or some shit, you're going to be like R-ing the fucking Zeri the first time you see him, hooking him, like flashing in, trying to kill this motherfucker the second he enters your screen. Whereas if you're playing with a Corki Jace, you're supposed to be holding it. Well, it's not even that you're peeling. It's just you're waiting. You're literally just waiting. You're doing nothing until the right moment arises. So that was something that I was worried about when I was watching Winsome. It didn't look like he was able to like figure out what was needed from him in that game. And if you do that at the wrong time where your Jace is not that far ahead, if Summit is not stomping the game 1v9 as hard as he is, that could be an issue. Maybe he's just playing that way. Maybe Winsome like is just is playing like this because he knows how far ahead the Jace is, and he just thinks that they're going to be able to win all-ins anyway. But still, when I see these types of things in game, they make me nervous because I'm not able to like accurately judge if the player understands what his role is in the team comp.
I think very interesting to kind of see what problems that this type of team, right, Cloud9 and Winsome will have to review and worry about, and kind of like it's more intricate rather than another team who's wondering who's actually playing next week, which is TSM. Yes, this is the segment of the show where we talk about TSM. And
that's
they're
talking. That's what we'll be doing.
That's what we're doing. We're talking about TSM, Dom. And so TSM 0-3, they lose their first game of the day. They get clapped in El Asico. They were the clapped, not the clapper. And then they lose to Team Liquid. And then Bjergsem does his interview in front of Spica. And look, I don't normally watch Travis's stuff. That shit was pretty funny. So, and then all of a sudden,
he also said, by the way, let me provide some subtext for you, TSM fans, because Bjergsen's never going to actually talk shit because that's not the kind of person he is. But he did say in the post-game interview that it was extremely important to him to beat TSM. So that should tell you what you need to know right there. Doesn't sound like he likes them very much from his comments.
I don't know. He didn't say that though. You know,
he did say it was. He said it was extremely important to him that he won the match versus TSM.
He didn't say he doesn't like them. He didn't say that part, Monty. TSM fans, I spent a little bit of time on the subreddit yesterday just because, you know, I was feeling a little down on myself, and so I wanted to, you know, just go to a darker place, and I definitely found it. And there, we got a lot of fans turning on everyone, and they don't know who to turn on to. Spica came out, shot his tweet out saying the narrative has gotten out of control about the team and about benching Shen Yi. Bjergsem highlights Shen and Master Yi in the champ select, which was pretty hype as fuck. What is happening with TSM here, Dom?
Yep. Poor Spica. The narrative has gotten out of control. The narrative that TSM created themselves.
Yeah, that's what I thought that was so fucking weird about it. Is like, you literally did TSM Legends and you had interviews with your coach that said that it was communication issues. So it's not like people were just random. Like the way that was phrased was like the community was just like, it must be communication because he's Chinese. It's like, no, like your coach said that there was communication issues. That's what the people that are on the head of the team are putting out. So that's what people are going to latch onto. They're not just expecting things to be completely false. So like how could people know that? I mean, this is a speak aside of it, but how could people know that the whole team actually was like, we want to play with Shen Yi. We want to play with Shen Yi, and we decide for him to be the shot caller. And then management was actually like, no, fuck it. Like, we're kicking him off the team, actually. But then at the same time, you say it's because of out of game things. So it's like, what the fuck did this guy do? Like, there's so many more questions. Like, did he like actually like talk back to Reggie for once? Like, what could he have done that it was so egregious that he needed to be benched immediately? So when I listen to these types of things, I think it's super weird. Also, like, I don't understand why it's like, dude, everyone gets flamed when their team is doing fucking poorly, right? Like, isn't that just how it works? Like, that's how the community's always been.
Poor Spica, he's not used to this. It's okay, Dom. He hasn't.
I know, but I like how everyone was like, please, like, shield Spica. Like, everyone came out, like, all of his former teammates were like, no, don't criticize baby Spica. Like, it's not his fault. It's like, I mean, Spica's like definitely not playing well right now. Like, he's definitely playing worse than what you'd expect from an MVP caliber player. Like, he last split, we're gonna like, I'm not one of the people that takes MVP as literally the best player in the league. I think it's most valuable, but it definitely means that you're one of the best players in the league. If you're one of the best players in the league, you should be performing better than this, right? I think that should be agreed upon. So I don't understand why he's just like immune to criticism because he was good last. Like, it's like, I don't understand. Like, to me, bro, Perkz won like fucking 1 million championships and people were just shitting down his throat from all different angles all of last split. Like, it was like, you fucking suck, go back to Croatia. He's like, I'm sorry, I just like won and I got us out of groups for the first time. Well, no one wanted you here anyway, Perkz, you piece of shit. Like, what the fuck? I don't understand why, like, TSM
you really don't understand? It's because the TSM fans are brain dead, dude.
I actually feel like this is the most rational I've seen TSM fans. Literally. Like, when I went to TSM Reddit, like, I'm like, damn, they're actually like, they actually seem the most stable and most sane right now in terms of like the comments. It's normally when they're winning a lot and then they lose that they like dramatically overreact, where I'm like, damn, these guys are like fucking crazy. But I actually feel like TSM fans are taking it pretty well. It seems like the TSM fans are actually more tolerant than the management of what a rebuilding team is supposed to be. The TSM fans, for the most part, when I was seeing comments on the Reddit, they're like, hey, how about we just give this guy more than fucking 4 games? Like, how about we just give, you know, the guy that played for like FPX last year, like, I mean, like, didn't his team like win LDL? Like, wasn't he performing well when he was subbed in to LPL? Shouldn't we give him like more than 4 games? And manager was like, no. Fuck Shenyi. So like, I honestly,
well, I love the fact that Spica's tweet also implies that there's a difference between the players' opinions and the management's opinions, as in like and he literally says it wasn't for gameplay reasons, implying that as far as I know, that can only mean one of 2 things: that he thinks the management is stupid, or that there were attitude related issues with Shenyi that were keeping him out of the game. Because he literally says in his tweet, if I'm to take it at face value, that there were not gameplay reasons for Shenyi's benching. Right. So what, like, so Speak is mad that the fans are getting mad at him. So his other thing is to like deflect and like throw his management and or Shenyi under the bus. Like, that's just a dick thing to do.
Yeah, I didn't like that too much. I was surprised that the community got behind it so much. I mean, I guess like, I like Spica a lot personally. Like, I think that he's like fucking hilarious, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, if the results are not there, like, I just feel like, yeah, you're just going to get criticized. Like, when I was in fucking LCS and we were losing games, I got criticized, you know. Then you fucking win a couple games and they say that you're fucking really good. Like, it just is what it is. It's just how things go. Like, 1-8 is really fucking bad. And you're on one of the most popular organizations.
Also, they should be 0-9. Let's be real. They should have lost that Immortals game.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's true. They should have lost the Immortals game. They probably should have won the Cloud9 game, though. So it's like,
yes, that's true. But I don't know about that. They were only, C9 was only about 1,200 gold down, had a funnel Camille. Like, I feel like that the Immortals game, they should have lost more than they should have won the Cloud9 one.
I think it's hard to say, because I think that you're expected to be down. So I don't think the break point is like, if you're 2K down with your Lulu comp, I feel like you're actually ahead, or your Karma top, whatever they're playing. I feel like you're actually ahead game state wise, because you are literally not farming at all on your top laner. So I think it's hard to say, but like, look, I'll just say it is what it is. It's 1-8. Like, if it's 1-8, you're gonna get shit on by the community. You're literally in 10th place. This team should be a top 5 team at minimum, right? Like, I was looking at everyone's tier list. No one that I knew had them under 5th. Like, people had top 3 as like TL, 100 Thieves, and EG, because people thought 100 Thieves didn't change their roster, and EG, like, for the most part, has the same roster. And then like C9, people weren't really sure, so they had them like 4th. Some people had them like as high as 3rd, but it was like 4th or 3rd for Cloud9, and then TSM was 5th for everyone. So like,
I didn't know what to make of this roster, Dom, because I hadn't seen the previous games of these Chinese players. What was your opinion that this should be a good roster coming into the season? Because I didn't have any metric to kind of, you know, create my expectations.
I think they should be better than teams like Flyquest and Golden Guardians. It's not really that I thought that they would be good. I thought they would be lower than those top 4. But I mean, I saw Shenyi play. I thought he looked decent. He looked like your stereotypical, like, engaged. Like, I thought he would be pretty much Sword Art level, to be honest. Like, maybe not as good as Sword Art, but like that same type of player where he's gonna like kind of look out of sorts sometimes. He's gonna die a lot, but he'll probably get a bunch of like really good engages off. And frankly, I thought that their top side would still be like top 5 in the league, right? They were top 5 last split. You still have Spica and Huni there. Tactical, I thought, is was better than Lost last season. I thought Lost was actually pretty bad last season. So I looked at the roster overall. I was like, yeah, sure, this should, I see it being top 5. I don't think that, even though I had never watched Kaido play, I don't think that Kaido is going to be able to play so bad that he's going to lower the level of everyone else if they actually play at what I'm expecting. I feel like everyone's playing a lot worse than expected. Like, I'm not seeing Spica as a top 2 jungler right now in LCS that's being held back by his team. You know, like, I'm seeing actual mistakes.
Remember the standard that we were kind of criticizing Blabber for when he would come back after his MVP seasons, just be like, he's like a top 3 instead of the best player like he was earlier. Now it's Spica, and again, his lanes are not very good, but doesn't look that same form. And I think it's fascinating on how important that is for a player of Spica's caliber that we know is great, and how bad him and the rest of the team looks now. When you insert that in. Just a quick aside for this one is we were talking about it's the first time players get inflamed. Licorice came out with just such a banger for that one, which was watching different pro players getting flamed this year, and then it has the first time with the noose around the neck kind of meme. That was so good. That was so good. Licorice has been outspoken about, what he's had to deal with it, and he's learned how to deal with it. But to see Speak, I have to go through that sucks. And I'm going to do it. I know that I very much have had my run-ins with TSM and whatever. But if I was going hard on Cloud9 last week about them not protecting their players, not protecting Max with PR, with like a statement, with something to protect them so that they don't just get fed to the wolves by the media and by the community. It's the same fucking issue here with TSM. You are leaving your prized player, your pillar that you decided to build around in Spica, alone to deal with media, to deal with interviews, to deal with all of
who
that.
Who can do it? Here's the thing. Parth and Lena left. I can only assume, by the way.
Chowie.
Yeah, those two. Those
anybody
two.
Else.
That's literally the 2. Look, they're not people that have to fucking go on Twitch all the time and get like shit on. Like, they're not gonna be the same people that are gonna be in front. Like, what does it matter if community perception of Dominic is bad? Obviously, you don't want community perception to be bad, but like, you look at other motherfuckers, like Grabs will literally take blame for anything that like Adam will run it down and he's like, yes, this is my fault. Like, I didn't teach Adam to not die twice at level 1 with Aurelia. Like, please flame me instead of the play. Like, other people are willing to take the blame. It's like, yeah, it doesn't even matter if it's your fault or not. It's the fact that like it doesn't matter if they attack fucking Dom. It matters if they attack Spica, and Spica's reading all this fucking hate, and now he doesn't even want to like stream. He doesn't want to interact with like, he's one of the people that is gonna have to do it. So like, somebody else just has to fucking tank the aggro, even if it's not their fault. Like, yeah, Dominic didn't build a roster. He's probably in a shit situation. Just say like, yeah, like, you know, like I've made like some decisions. I'm trying to like right this ship. Like, I might not have been left with like all the choices in the world. Like, maybe the roster's already built, but I'm going to do whatever's in my power to make sure that we are the strongest team come playoffs possible.
I think that it was also bad because he went on Hotline League and then just didn't do that. He just said nothing. And then also, you have to remember that typically the person who does this is Reggie. And actually, he's been extremely good at tanking aggro for TSM over the years. It's one of his greatest strengths, I think, as an owner.
Pulling aggro, like unnecessary.
Sure, but no, but it's valuable because
it's like a taunt. It's like when you're playing
he will
WoW,
go out and start like insulting people publicly or like calling people out, or that has been legitimately a very good thing he has done for this team over the years, but he cannot do that right now. First off, because obviously being aggressive publicly probably isn't going to do him any favors in terms of the investigations that he's under. But also, I would imagine that a condition of these investigations is that he cannot currently interact with the LCS roster until the investigation concludes. I can't imagine a world where Riot would be doing this investigation and allowing him to have contact with the LCS team at the same time. Like, you just need to separate them until the results come in, right? So he can't do it. And he's typically the one who has done it in the past. And based on, the hiring decisions that TSM has made, I will say that one of the things that you can't necessarily fault them for is if they didn't know this investigation was coming and they hired certain people for certain aspects of these jobs with the understanding that Reggie was going to tank the aggro and he can't right now, that's just a shitty situation.
Well, I mean, look, I'll say number one, that guy fucking stole my name. Like, I hate seeing Dom in these Reddit threads because people get confused. So number one, I hate him for that. Number two, like, why is he feeding Speak It to the Wolves over here? So like, that guy needs to get himself
He's not
together. And
feeding Spica to the wolves. He is watching passively as Spica gets
Yeah.
eaten by wolves.
Engages
There's a
the
difference.
wolves, yes.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that.
he's not feeding him. He's just not doing anything about it. I mean, look,
He's just having
the
a
way-
beer while it happens.
people will flame Cloud9. At least Cloud9 gave more. Like Cloud9 didn't leave it up to like do the players and like the staff actually like dislike LS. At least it was pretty obvious that it was like Jack went on camera, was like, we have certain standards that we have for coaching at Cloud9. Like these standards, like, were not met in our eyes, and that's why like he's released. It was at least that separates like the players from the blame of all the shit that's going on. Like this is bad. And
I can't believe that we're using the C9 video as an example.
It's unironically better PR. I think it's unironically better PR.
With
Look,
a week later.
This is esports.
I think it's
just
unironically
about
better.
It's the least bad. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. Like LS was so much more important than Gen.G or this like Dom guy is to TSM, right? Like, so the reason that everyone cares so much about the C9 stuff is because LS was like so fucking popular. He was driving so much. But if you look at like what you know about both, like it's very fucking weird. It's like no one from C9 came out and was like, actually, like the players weren't asked at all, and like the players, agreed that we wanted LS to coach, but then like he wasn't allowed, or like then he was removed, which is essentially what TSM did. Like, so yeah, I mean, I don't think both of them are bad, but I think that the TSM one, it can't get any worse.
Yeah. Just looking at some of these stats here, pretty interesting. I have heard that Shen-Yi should be inserted back to the main roster here. That means your son's 4-game run at support will be the shortest in TSM history. The next shortest, other than Shen-Yi, who is at 8, is 16 games for one Eric Treats Vissen or Wesson. I'm not sure how to say he's Swedish, but Treats with 16 games there. So support role kind of volatile here for TSM. And I just, again, yes, TSM fans are taking it well, most of them, some of them turning on each other. But even like, hey, look, the video guy, Andrew's leaving, everyone's leaving. It's all falling apart. Lena's taking shots back at the org. Bjergsem is reveling in all the tiers and, dragging out his games and plays Zillion against them. So just, it doesn't look like
really treats lasted longer than Glebe Glarbu.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Glebe,
but it's because he also played playoffs. So like playoffs is different.
That was a dark
Glebe.
time.
It was
very
having to like cancel scrims. It's like Glebe is in the bathroom and we can't get him out. What do you mean you can't get him out? It's like, we have to cancel scrims because our support is in the bathroom and we can't get him out. It's like, is he like sick or something? Like, no, he just won't leave the bathroom. Like, what? Like, all right, man. I guess our scrims are canceled. Like, well, I don't know what to fucking say about that. Like, what do you do? What do you do as a team?
That's so you're giving me PTSD too, man.
Did you say that you should have just said like, can you slide a laptop like under the bathroom door?
Yeah. Like he plays support. Can we just play 4v5? Like it doesn't.
Dude, I remember just honestly just thinking of all these, everything that you're suggesting right now when I had to try and solve some of those issues on Golden Guardians. Just be like, can we just go get the academy guy? Can we just go get a guy? Can someone fill in on his? Can you guys not tell the other players like what actually is happening? Like, no, they're messaging us. I was like, fuck.
No, it's like he won't leave the bathroom. That's it. like that's okay.
All right. Well, a great super week indeed it was. CLG goes 2-1.
Whatever.
Let's see. Cool. That's all. I just wanted to touch on that. Dignitas stopped their 4-game losing streak against 100 Thieves. So they are 1-4 in the last 5 games, but on a 1-game winning streak. 100 Thieves, they go 1-2 this week. And we talked about it a little bit. We're banning off Abadage from Corki.
This
what
team
else
is just
needs to happen?
I watched a bunch of T1 games this week, and the way this team played around objectives in the Dignitas game is just they're so indecisive. Like watching Abadage try and zone them out on a package, and his team is just like not starting Dragon or like not doing objectives. The coordination is just extremely off. And the communication is extremely off. And if you compare that to watching T1's objective play, where it's like they nail the timing windows perfectly around, Gnar rage bars, their ability cooldowns. It's really hard to watch this team because they have such a low amount of synergy. And that was always their problem with this roster. And it just seems like the boot camp, everything that we've seen over the past year of this roster being together has not solved certain like core issues that they have. And like, I think this roster, without significant changes to who is shot calling, and by that I mean new players, I think we've seen its peak. Like it's not going to get better. This is not a roster that is like, we've seen the peak of it. That's it. Like they need to make player changes.
I mean, I think the thing is they only have one mode, and they only had one mode all of summer, and they ended up winning with it. But their only mode is like full on engage. So like when you watch them play any of these comps, it's part of the reason we banned him from Corki. Number one, his lading with Corki is bad, but number two, they don't use Corki to beat Corki. They don't out like, okay, like Corki's like with us and he's like poking them off, and we're gonna use like package to like zone off Drake and then complete the
Abadage is
objective.
like diving Veigar with package.
Yes, but that's all of them know how to do. Even when he doesn't do that, like you look at a fight, you look at that dragon fight, Abadage is getting chased and solo killed by a fucking Hecarim. He's getting chased and solo killed by a Hecarim, and suddenly you're looking at everyone here and you're like what is happening here? Like, is somebody gonna peel? No, his team just hard engages. His team just hard engages, goes in, and they all die. It's like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, so like somebody has to be able to peel for the quirky Jace at some point, right? Like we gotta like at least poke a little bit, but no, they just won't do it. So I mean, 100 Thieves is just they're just the same team. Like they need to win super hard early game, and they need to just have the ability to see people walking over wards and hard engage. If they don't have that, the game is lost.
It makes their championship run last year even more impressive. Very much akin to like hockey teams, right? When you just get that goalie that's like on fire and in during the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then they win. 100 Thieves last year, 100 Thieves last summer. Just kind of
look,
in the role
LCS
when they needed to.
LCS creates very weird results. We also had TSM winning in summer in 2020, despite the fact that they were knocked down to the losers bracket and barely scraped out in every single game 5 that they had. Like that was not a convincing title, and nobody thought 100 Thieves was going to win coming into the playoffs. Like EG kind of shit the bed in summer. They were coming in with as kind of the hotter team, and Cloud9 had cooled off at that point in time. So, and obviously Liquid had experienced like pretty severe roster turmoil over the course of that year. So, 100 Thieves, I feel like took advantage of that situation and took advantage of the meta. But a lot of champions in NA in the last couple of years it hasn't felt good. Let's put it that way. Cloud9 winning over Team Liquid without Santorin, that felt pretty bad last year as well. Like it seems like there was always like weird asterisks to these victories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's a reason why like these teams don't end up looking super convincing internationally, because they're so one-dimensional. I feel like the thing is this. Somebody said it once on the Crackdown. I forget who it was, but somebody said on the Crackdown that the way you win NA is not the same way that you actually win games internationally. Like winning NA is like a specific thing where you have to like hone it on a style and like have like one strength and not be versatile and just stick with it. And that's going to be like how you win. And when you play against better teams, normally like these conditions can't be met. So like the TSM title that you're referencing was, hey, we just play Zillion blind into like anything, and
in game
we
5
just
and barely win.
I mean, that was but it was like we'll pick Zillion into like this super godlike Lucian that is completely unfucking touched, like this insane champion that like is 1v9ing every other game. Yeah, we're gonna pick like the weakest mid laner into that, and it won't matter. Like the thing is, when you play against better players, like you saw what happened. TSM tried to do that at Worlds. It's not like TSM completely changed their style and you're like, why did they end up picking Zillion in these games? No, literally when they picked Zillion in those games, like BDD set is like murdering this mother. He's like up 20 CS solo kill. Like he's just fucking destroying this guy. Like it's like this champion can't lane versus anything. So I mean the biggest issue.
You can see that even like you can see that even domestically in some of these games. Like look what happens when Kumo blind picks Graves in the Flyquest Cloud9 game, and then Summit responds with a Jace pick, and then is just proxying his ass at like 8 minutes into the game. Like, you know, the level of dominance when you are like what you can get away with at NA is not what you can get away with internationally, and that a glimpse of it, like Dom is saying, is the Cloud9 versus Flyquest match.
To be fair, again, to Kumo, that's, you know, both Kumo and coach, so Sharks should take a hit on that one as well.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, sure, like it's both player and coach, but Graves is actually just blindable, and you can actually just play Graves into Jace. It's not supposed to look like that. It's not supposed to look like that unless you're like massively skill gapped in the top lane. So for me, it's just, yeah, I can't give him too much of a pass because like at the end of the day, it's player diff there. Like player diff is the main issue in that lane.
Well, don't worry about it too much, Dom. I'm sure the top players in Champions Queue will be able to level up and... Oh, wait, that's Kumo. Never mind.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that Champions Queue is a good idea, and like it's certainly not going to hurt things, and it's the best solution to the crappy NA solo queue problem that has existed up until this point. Don't think it's going to be enough, but it's been better than any other thing that they've done.
All right. Well, we are halfway through the season now. 9 games in. Every team has played their first round robin, and we've kind of given out our thoughts on where they're at, what happened last week, and still looking for anyone in TSM management to tank aggro without giving aggro and getting him in trouble. So we'll see what happens for the second half of the season. Closing thoughts here, Monty?
My dog of the week is Kumo, the guy with the dog name who got... Somebody has a dog out there. Somebody definitely has a Shiba Inu named Kumo. That's just a fact. That dog exists. We all know it exists. Just shameful. Like shamefully bad performance this week.
Damn, yeah. Oh my god, he should be ashamed for his performance. Like it wasn't bad enough.
Bad dog, man. Bad dog. Okay. That's when he gets hit with the newspaper.
Holy shit.
A loving tap, of course.
Okay.
Lightly.
Abusing animal abuse. Okay.
Dog,
all right. My dog of the week. You know what? I'm gonna give dog of the week to... I'm going to give it to Danny. I feel like Danny actually had a surprisingly bad go of it. And I thought that, I don't know, I expect more of him. I think that he needs to pick it up.
My dog of the week is anyone in TSM management. That's fucked up. Don't leave your boy out to dry. Come on.
You know, who knows if they even knew he was tweeting that stuff, or pro players are weird, man. Like sometimes they don't even talk to the organization. Like you might just be sitting there and Spica could have said nothing to anybody. And then all of a sudden, like, they're like, wait, you actually feel this way? Like, why don't you talk to us first? That's because a lot of people are, you know, a lot of pro players tend to be kind of introverted. And so sometimes that shit just comes out on social media. You have no idea it's going on at all. Right.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I'm not. This is the same guy that tweeted at me and ratioed the fuck out of me saying, do you think I don't know what the fuck is going on with my organization? Well, I mean,
yes.
And on that note, everyone, we will catch you guys next week for another episode of The Jungle. You can catch this episode over at Dexerto. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you all. Take care, and we'll catch you all for the next show.